Hello, everyone. Welcome to our RHB sectorial series in collaboration with Bursa Malaysia. I would like to take you through some administrative notes. Please be informed that this event is 10 CPE points accredited. In order to obtain the 10 CPE points, you are required to answer the post-assessment questions via CHK platform at chkconsultancy.com with a 100% passing mark. As per the Securities Commission's requirements, you are required to stay on until the end of the event in order to obtain the 10 CPE points. Failure to do so might cause the 10 CPE points to be retracted by Securities Commission. The deadline to submit the post-assessment answers are by Friday, 5th April, 3 p.m. Please be informed that attendees are more than welcome to post their questions in the Q&A box, which will be addressed by the moderator during the panel session. If we are unable to answer your questions, or if you have any questions for us, please contact your RHB sales representatives and they would be more than happy to assist you. Senior management of RHB Investment Banking Berhad, our honorable partner in collaboration for today's event, Bursa Malaysia Berhad, esteemed speakers and moderator for our event today, RHB and Bursa Malaysia's committee members who has helped make this event a reality, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us today. I'm Alia Norizani, your MC for today's event, and I'm honored to welcome you to our RHB sectorial series in collaboration with Bursa Malaysia, Unveiling the Future, Sarawak's Path to Progress, Pioneering Infrastructure to High Income State. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin our first panel session with the title, Making Sarawak a Hotspot for Investment. In this first panel session, we will have three very important key guest speakers, Ms. Mildred Woon, Division Head, Performance Management and Delivery Division from Economic Planning Unit Sarawak, Datuk Haji Ismawi Haji Ismuni, Chief Executive Officer from Regional Corridor Development Authority, RICODA, and Mr. Timothy Ong, Chief Executive Officer from Invest Sarawak. Once again, if you have any questions for our three key panelists, please, you are more than welcome to post your questions in the Q&A box, which will be addressed by the moderator during the panel session. Without further ado, I will now like to invite and hand over the mic to our moderator for today, Encik Adam Muhammad Rahim, Senior Research Analyst, RHB Investment Bank Berhad, to lead this session. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Alia. Good morning to all participants thank you for taking the time to join for today's session. We have with us, three representatives from three esteemed organizations from Sarawak. So I think, first we would have a series of presentations from each and one of them. The Economic Planning Unit, RICODA, and lastly, Invest Sarawak. So I think without further ado, I'd like to pass on the floor to Ms. Mildred from the Economic Planning Unit of Sarawak. On to you, Ms. Mildred.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Adam, and thanks, RHB Bank, for the invitation. Firstly, I'd like to apologize on behalf of my director, Dr. Lester Matthew, who couldn't make it today, so I'm standing in for him. And as we know, this is a talk about, the opportunities that are available in Sarawak, the investment opportunities. And I think from the Economic Planning Unit, we would just like to set the context of where we are right now. What are some of our economic strategies going forward? And then it will be continued with Dr. Ismawi and Timothy later on. Right. So how we really market ourselves is that Sarawak is really strategically located in the booming Asian market. We are really in between this growing market. And what is one of our key strengths is that Sarawak really has a very diverse culture and a very young population. We are also, I think in Malaysia, we're also known for having a very politically stable state government. And I think perhaps many people don't know that our population is quite racially balanced. We have 28% from the Iban population, 23% Malay, and 22% Chinese. And our biggest group of population age group is actually within the 15 and 39 years old age of our population of 2.47 million in Sarawak. Right. And in terms of our external trade, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to maintain a positive trade balance over the past years. In 2022, we exported a total of 153 billion ringgit. We imported a total of 64 billion ringgit with a balance of trade of 88 billion ringgit. 8888, very lucky number. Our top 5 trading partners are, of course, Peninsula Malaysia, Japan, China, Korea, and India. And just to give you a context of, what are our main exports and imports, we export largely primary products and import more on capital goods. So, of course, our major export is LNG, which constitutes 40% of our exports, followed by palm oil, crude petroleum, and the rest. In our import side, we import a lot of machinery, transport, chemical products. Just to give you a sort of a context of where we are economically on our economic growth, our economy remains resilient and our growth is really driven by the services sector. So you can see that on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see that the sectorial contribution, 10% was from the agriculture sector, 21% was from mining. Of course, part of mining is also the oil and gas sector. Manufacturing sector contributed 28%, construction 3%, and our services sector is the largest component of our GDP. In terms of our GDP growth, we are forecasted to have about 4 to 5% growth in 2023, and the data will be published by DOSM in July. So in terms of our GDP per capita, we are now at about 81,000 ringgit per capita. So then the question is, what is Sarawak's strategy now for our economic growth? The key strategy document, which was launched in 2021, is what we call PCDS 2030, or the Post-COVID-19 Development Strategy 2030. And the vision of our YAB Premier is that by 2030, Sarawak will be a thriving society driven by data innovation, where everyone enjoys economic prosperity, social inclusivity, and sustainable environment. And this is very much in line with the movement towards ESG. I think Bursa requirements, Securities Commission's requirements as well for companies. So under this PCDS vision, we have 3 main pillars, which I mentioned just now. Economic prosperity, our target for this is to reach a GDP of 282 billion ringgit. Social inclusivity, this is very important for us. As you know, we have still a large population that lives in rural areas, where perhaps there's less economic activity. And for this, our median household income target is 15,000 ringgit. We also hope to contribute to 45% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions to contribute to Malaysia's overall reduction in greenhouse gases. And some of you may have read the news sometime in July or August last year. The chief economist of World Bank in Malaysia basically said, "Oh, congratulations, Sarawak. You are now on par with Penang, you're on par with KL, and Sarawak has been recognized as being high income based on the measurement of GNI per capita, which I think was about 16 or 18,000 US dollars. And our Premier has also acknowledged this, but indeed the focus of the Sarawak government is not just looking at GDP or GNI per capita, but looking at household income, which really reflects how incomes are distributed, how the wealth is distributed in the state. So in PCDS, what are some of our key development strategies? And this might be of interest to the audience today. We really want to focus on 3 major things, right? Economic restructuring in terms of diversifying our sources of economy. As you can see, we are very highly dependent on oil and gas sources. So we want to see how we can build other forms of new economy. Definitely scaling up production from land use, expand upstream activities, and also, this is very key, right? Developing more downstream high value added activities, not just for oil and gas, but for our mining sector as well, for our palm oil sector, to grow our services sector, and also to look into sources of new economy, which is, say, digital transformation, looking also into hydrogen, for example, which you also may have heard of. Second of our key development strategy is also looking to modernize, increase efficiency and productivity, intensify our focus on growth areas, increase the adoption of technologies, invest more in innovation and R&D, building markets and also attract more investments, right? Through, our colleagues in Recorda, through our colleagues in Invest Sarawak. And definitely the priority of our YIB Premier is to increase our household income. We need to promote self-employment and entrepreneurship. We have a lot of programs for our startup community, providing also the social safety net and our programs for social inclusivity, enhancing rural infrastructure. You may have read in the news recently that the Prime Minister was here, and he also agreed to our programs for, our dilapidated schools, our dilapidated clinics and hospitals, and finally, really improving access to education and human capital. And as you have seen from one of my first few slides, the Sarawak population is actually quite small. We only have 2.47 million population, and to really grow our economy, we must look into making sure that our population, our citizens, have the right skills to do high-paying jobs. So I think that is definitely our focus area on human capital. And just finally, just to touch on PCDS, PCDS is anchored upon 6 key economic sectors and 7 enablers. Not to say that we don't have other economic sectors other than these 6, but for 2030, we're really putting our focus in these 6 key sectors. Right, I'll just share a little bit about what are our high-level targets for these sectors for your information. And then later on, I'll also share a QR code that you can download the PCS summary document. Right, so manufacturing, our high-level target by 2030 is to contribute to 30% of the GDP. Of course, just now I mentioned that manufacturing now contributes about 28%, but most of that comes from LNG. So we want to really look into diversifying, growing our E&E manufacturing, our food and beverage manufacturing as well. And for commercial agriculture, currently Sarawak is a food importer, right? But we have big goals to really ensure that we bolster 2 things. One, grow our commercial agriculture sector beyond palm oil, but also into the food sector. And 2, become a net food exporter. For I think 1 is for food security reasons, and 2 is really to increase the revenue of the state government, of the state. And 3, tourism. As you know, Sarawak is very famous for ecotourism products. We really want to increase the number of visitors that come in and also target more high-value tourists coming into Sarawak. For forestry, our focus now is more on sustainable forestry management, looking into types of trees that will grow faster, and also looking to developing our bamboo industry. And as you know, bamboo grows a lot faster than trees, and bamboo can be used in a lot of, the construction sector, the furniture sector as well. And for mining, as you know, Sarawak is very well established in the oil and gas mining component. What we're looking at for 2030 is looking into geological mapping to see whether we still have perhaps gold deposits if we have rare earth minerals, and the target is to contribute 5 billion direct GDP contribution from the mineral sector. For social services, it's more focused on provision of healthcare services. How can the state government support the federal government in the provision and perhaps expansion of health insurance that we are currently considering? We are also looking into expanding affordable housing for our people as well, and also healthcare coverage for B4B children. And as we know, you can't just develop your economic sectors without thinking, okay, what is your business ecosystem? What is that ecosystem that supports all these industries? So we have identified 7 key enablers which will support our PCDS 2030 vision. First is definitely digital transformation. As I mentioned, a lot of our population still live in rural areas, and because of our mountainous landscape, what we're really focusing on is really expanding internet access to cover the whole of Sarawak. Our target is to reach 100% household to internet connectivity. Currently, the statistics that the state government has, we are currently about 78%. But for internet, we are concerned about 2 things, right? Access to internet and also internet speed, which is one of the targets that my team is tracking. For innovation, we're really looking to, the creation of more Sarawakian companies, more Sarawakian products, and looking into our digital R&D, our bioindustry R&D, for example. For basic infrastructure in this sense covers our road network, our logistics network, and also our ports. We're really looking into expanding road infrastructure. we have, I think, three main trunks of roads right now: the Pan-Borneo Highway, the second trunk highway, the coastal highway. We're definitely looking into improving and maintaining our roads, and also looking into our port strategy now that we will be taking over Bintulu Port Authority this year. And number four, we are looking into expanding our public transport services. Currently in our major cities, Kuching, Miri, Bintulu, we have only buses, and as some of you may know, we are going to have our ART, our hydrogen-powered tram system in Kuching to be completed by 2027. So the fifth enabler that we've identified is utilities. You'll be surprised to know that in terms of electricity coverage, we've reached almost 99%. This is because in our rural areas, Sarawak Energy Berhad and CESCO have rolled out a solar hybrid system for the villages that are really located in very remote areas, which are very far away from the electrical grid. In terms of water supply, we're investing billions of ringgit into expanding water supply, both from federal government sources and also from state government sources. For renewable energy, you may also know that Sarawak is actually the regional powerhouse in terms of hydroelectricity. Currently, about 68% of our generation electricity comes from hydroelectric. And I think you'll hear more from Dr. Chen from SEB, who will be speaking in panel 2. For education and human capital, as I mentioned, human capital really will be the driver for our economy. And we really need to make sure that we are developing the right talents all the way from primary school, secondary school, to our institutions of training and to our university. Our target is really to reach a target of 40% science enrollment. But not only that, I think just elevating the quality of education and making sure that children in rural areas also have access to good quality education that will ensure them to have good quality jobs later on. So I think that's just a very, very quick rundown of where we are at the socio-economic context of Sarawak. And feel free to scan and download this PCDS report that you can actually read more about all the different sectors that we are focusing on. And in fact, this is a summary document, which is about 80 pages. But if you Google for PCDS full report, you can see all the full reports that are available online. So I think that's all from me. So we really welcome all your questions and we look forward to this conversation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Mildred, for the insightful presentations. I would like to invite Mr. Timothy, CEO of Invest Sarawak, to begin his presentation first. Yeah, on to you, Mr. Timothy.
All right, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, please can I move on to the first slide? So again, this is a slight iteration of what Ms. Mildred has presented in terms of where Sarawak is at, and then all the administrative divisions in Sarawak. And these are slides that obviously we could share with all the participants, but just to give you a snapshot that, the landmass in Sarawak itself is quite huge, right? So if you start comparing the size of Peninsular Malaysia and Sarawak, is almost similar in terms of landmass. We have about 12.4 million hectares in terms of available land. Next slide, please. So again, you look at one of the key things that will strike you, it will be in terms of the forest reserve that we have. Right, so despite the fact that we have certain developments that's happening in Sarawak, agricultural activities, we still maintain a good 56.5% in terms of forest cover. Next, please. So I won't talk that much in terms of the major trading partners that we have. I am sure Ms. Mildred has spoken a little bit about that in her presentation earlier. But if you looked at primarily what we have, we are really exporting a lot in terms of primary products or commodities. So you are really looking at oil and gas products, palm oil being a majority of it. Hence, the articulation by Ms. Mildred in terms of complexity of our economy. We are really looking towards how we could actually change the economic landscape in terms of production of higher value products, focused on higher value added services, and etc. Next. So again, I'm going to sell PCDS like what we usually do. It is a full document of which was launched back in 2021. And that basically charts out our development program for the state of Sarawak for the next 10 years, which is up to 2030. We are probably midway through that right now. So I think if you looked at our targets of 282 billion in terms of GDP target, it is something which we feel that, it's quite challenging, but I think it's something that we should give it a go. And I think with the right components, the right proponents in play, and etc., we should be able to make significant strides towards that goal. Right? Next. Again, I think this was the slide that I saw was not, putting things into perspective, right? So in terms of how we support the areas in terms of, the economic sectors that we're trying to develop and what then are the enablers, and then look at the strategic trust, look at the pillars. I think there's, prior to PCDS 2030, there were I've seen quite a number of strategies, for state developments and etc. But you hardly see ESG being included that early, right? So if you looked at the very core of what this strategy is about, it's really around, what people think post-COVID 2020 along the lines of ESG, right? So very early on, the state government has already been looking into implementing it, and then not just implementing it, but putting it as part and parcel of its strategy. Next. Yeah, so as far as these areas are concerned, again, higher value added manufacturing, I have to stress that over and over again. The commercial agricultural side, I mean, we are talking about high value agriculture in terms of things like smart farming, the utilization of technologies, AI, and then of course you have tourism, forestry, mining, social services. These are all key areas that Ms. Mildred has mentioned prior in her presentation, but I would just like to perhaps reinforce the fact that these are really consistent across all the civil service, right? So we know exactly the kind of industries that we welcome in Sarawak. And if you looked at the core, manufacturing is still one of these staple, what we call momentums of growth for the state of Sarawak. And then we hope to be a net food exporter, obviously, given the landmass that we have, proximity to locations like Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei. I believe we could, if we done it, if we do it in a very concerted manner, we would be able then to really push in terms of trying to, maybe the food basket of Southeast Asia, if that's not too far-fetched. And when you talk about forestry, Sarawak has always been known for its forestry, even in the older days. But I think now when we looked at forestry, it's slightly different. We're looking at higher value-added products, going downstream as much as possible. For example, things like timber, for example, things like furniture, utilization of timber for furniture and building materials. These are the kind of things that we are looking at in terms of adding value. And mining itself, it's one possible area on revenue, but I would have to stress, given all the things that we have done, we are really towards the green trajectory. So when you talked about mining, we are really talking about sustainable mining as well. So it's just not your typical mining activity. So Sarawak government is also very careful in that sense. Next. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Mr. Timothy? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes. I think now is good.
Okay, I apologize if it was a bit fainting, but anyway, I think what you guys would really be keen to understand is in terms of the green energy transition and the movement in Sarawak, right? In terms of course, we were anchored previously, with the hydro, power generation that we have. It is a primary source of attraction for Sarawak, as you would see. To date, I think we have close to 5,600 megawatts installed capacity. The Balai hydro is probably only going to come up back 28 2028, 2029. But having said that, currently, as we stand, we are around 68% hydropower generation, which virtually, literally means that if you're plugged onto the grid, you are largely decarbonized, right? In many sense, and that's especially so for certain areas where you're directly connected to locations where the hydro transmission is. So in most cases, when companies come to Sarawak, these would be the primary attraction, and maybe a little bit on the upside portion of where we can go from here. All right, so 5,600 is not excessively huge. We have seen articles where our premier has talked about 10,000 megawatts in terms of installed capacity. But what we do have in terms of overall potential, if we can successfully develop all of them, is about 20,000 megawatts. So that's where we could go as far as hydropower is concerned. But we have not then included things like biomass power plants, floating solar, and things of that nature. So as far as renewables concerned, we believe that, the key for Sarawak will be the availability as well as the construction of more renewable energy assets, because that will anchor all the activities that you have been shown over the past half an hour, whether it's in terms of the 6 areas, economic areas, or any other activity going forward. Because I think the key to this is the power itself. Its capacity-wise is not going to be what the investors are looking for. What they are looking for is green power, right? I think that is what differentiates Sarawak apart from the others. Next. You've heard my colleague, Ms. Mildred, talking about hydrogen projects. These are one of the so-called developers of the hydrogen project. Is a state-owned entity called SEDC Energy. They are involved in the development of 2 major projects currently. One, we call it the Hibiscus, and the other being Hornbill. These 2 are different projects led by different consortiums of multinationals. So if you have one, the Hornbill project, that it's led by the Japanese consortium of Sumitomo, and then you have Hibiscus, which is led by a consortium of Samsung, POSCO, Lotte, and among others. Next. I think what is interesting in Sarawak is that, besides just talking about frameworks and, development strategies, there are actually implementation that's done. So I think that the very key is that, hydrogen industry, or a lot of these new frontier industries that Sarawak is working on, it's always very difficult to create solid business cases around it. But I think the Sarawak government, in this sense, have, put its foot down and try to put in as solid as possible implementation plans. And that's the reason why today you will see that Sarawak has the first multi-fuel refueling station with a hydrogen pump. And not just a hydrogen pump, but there is an on-site electrolyzer for those that knows about the production of hydrogen. It is really a key component in terms of the production of hydrogen, which is the electrolysis. We do have now hydrogen cars in Sarawak. I believe a couple of weeks back, when they were doing a hydrogen economy roadmap roadshow in Peninsula, they had to take the cars from the Sarawak state government, because there weren't just many hydrogen cars going around. And we do also have our hydrogen buses, and on your extreme right of the screen, you will see then that's the prototype of the tram, also powered by hydrogen, and that's also already in Sarawak. We are hoping that our autonomous rapid transit system will be up and ready by 2025-26, right? And that's run entirely on hydrogen. So you are seeing that Sarawak is really working on a complete ecosystem as far as showcasing how we could utilize new energy sources such as hydrogen. All right, next. And besides that, I'm sure some of you may know, but for those that don't, We do have a state oil company, right? So Petros is the Sarawak government's oil and gas company, which is tasked to develop its downstream businesses. And I think if you talked about the three largest oil companies in Malaysia, one being obviously being Petronas, second being Shell, third is Petros, right? So they are basically handling all the oil and gas resources for the state of Sarawak, right? Together, of course, with Petronas. Next. And besides, of course, the power aspect of things, Sarawak is in a land where you could also possibly create renewable feedstock. I think the other part of the green economy is not just around the changes in terms of new energy sources, but also the availability then now to really create renewable energy, renewable feedstock, renewable resource, and Sarawak has been doing that. What you see on screen is an actual site of a microalgae facility. And the uniqueness of this facility is such that if you looked at the chimneys behind, that's basically a power plant. And what you do is you capture the CO2 from the power plant to grow microalgae. So it's a fully circular kind of a model, right? And in Sarawak, we have 3 of such kind of projects. One is the one that you see on screen is a 5-hectare facility, and it's probably the biggest in the region as far as such facility is concerned. We also do have an initial pilot done by also Chitose and another of our Sarawak Biodiversity Center, and that's 1,000 square meters. And next slide, please. And this is, again, a completely different project, also on microalgae, but it's between Petronas and SEDC Energy. And this is supposed to be a feedstock for the production of sustainable aviation fuels. And if memory serves me right, you would be talking about 100,000 barrels a day kind of production if it's fully commercialized. The state has allocated about 10,000 acres of land for the development of microalgae facilities. And what you see on screen is an actual, actual production site. Although it's not the full-scale production, but it is currently what's being installed. You are looking at tanking systems for this, and in that, you could just imagine that it multiplies by 400,000 tanks. That's the scale that you'll be looking at eventually, right? But this is currently what we have in that, and we have, I believe we have sufficient land to start off the first phase of the project. So these are all different microalgae projects that's existing currently in Sarawak, but all for different users. So if you looked at the one on screen, this is basically for sustainable aviation fuels because it's a cost-effective way of growing microalgae. But the previous one is more for pharmaceutical applications, and for consumption and etc. So all algae cultivation is not created equal. That's the point I'm trying to make. So feel free to reach out to us anytime if you need to know more about these projects. Next. Can we move to the next slide, please? So again, if you looked at the trend we have been on, other than during COVID that we had a drop in terms of investment numbers, but we have been on a upward trajectory since 2021. And the latest being, I think it's about 12.4 billion or such in terms of investments coming to Sarawak in the past year. And we are looking very optimistic to maintain or at least grow such numbers. And I think the key for Sarawak now is in terms of pushing for the availability of more renewable energy, because we are really receiving more than we can handle at the moment in terms of investments, and all of which has a common denominator, which is green electricity, right? And the other thing besides being green, which why people find Sarawak very attractive, is that we are the most cost competitive location when it comes to green power in the region, right? I mean, we can do something like, if you can find a location in Southeast Asia that has got a lower renewable energy tariff and it's on a very firm power, you can always come back to us. We'll be very happy to hear about that as well, because that's really, really the competitive advantage for Sarawak. Not only, I mean, even if you compare current fossil fuel rates in Malaysia, ours is way at least 30-40% lower than that, right? And that to a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of industrialists, this is very key. Yeah. Next. But again, we go back to the need for high-tech industries, highly skilled workforce, sustainability-driven projects. I mean, we do have power in Sarawak, and we are getting a little bit more selective when it comes to the kind of companies that we are providing this power to, because again, we don't have limitless green energy. So we hope that whatever green electrons that we are providing to investors, Sarawak gets the best returns for each of those electrons that are being given. So again, we are very focused on the need for high-tech industries, higher value-added industries. So we try to steer away from heavy industries. Although that has been a staple for Sarawak in the past, I think that the landscape has changed quite drastically. That now we are really looking at transitioning, and we are really trying to develop a path of our own in terms of the green economy, in terms of the digital economy. Next. So I think if you looked at Sarawak being spread out, these are all the different clusters or the clusters of opportunities that you could see. One thing that I could immediately draw out, like shipbuilding and ship repair, not known to many, that Sarawak actually has the highest concentration of shipbuilding industry in Malaysia. Right? Out of more than, I think slightly more than 160 of them is in Sarawak. So it is quite a strong industry here. And of course, you have Bintulu, which is always being talked about because of all your new projects such as hydrogen and etc. But you also have Samalaju. I'm sure Dato will be talking a lot more on Samalaju later during his presentation. But these are all the core areas. And when you talked about energy intensive industries, even in Samalaju, that area is about 8,000 hectares. Yeah, so it's not small at all, right? I mean, that's the scale of things that Sarawak has built over the many years. Next. These are just some of the companies that is present in the different industrial clusters. So perhaps it will provide some references to some of the audiences today in terms of where some of their prospective investors or their prospective contacts or networks would like to locate or would like to have partnerships with. These are some of the companies. Next. And this is Samalaju. It's the I think one of the very few energy intensive dedicated areas in the region. So you really do have this area. That's the area that I've talked about, close to 8,000 hectares, and we're barely seeing any land left in this area today, right? So it's really quite developed as it is today. Next. These are some of the new proposed industrial parks as well as proposed agro parks that will be coming up in the next coming years. So if you looked at some of these pockets of opportunities, this is sort of perhaps very suitable for your small, medium-sized companies or mid-sized companies, lesser extent on the energy-intensive zone. So these are probably some highlights of those different areas. Next. And of course, we do have a bio-industrial park as well, led by Sarawak Biodiversity Center, that talks about things like higher value R&D, and as well as high value research to commercialization products. So these are also just a snapshot of what's there. It's 100 acres in terms of size. We are currently in the first phase of that development, and which covers around 26 acres. So these are some of the things that will be interesting for your audiences in terms of if they have any questions regarding this. But yeah, Sarawak has a lot of biodiversity, and one of the key roles of Sarawak Biodiversity Center is really to then, how do we then monetize some of the biodiversity that we have? And they have a full suite and a full catalog of that. So, if you need to visit them, please let us know. We will be also happy to arrange for that. Next. And on a separate project, we also do have a biohub or a bioindustrial circular economy project, a proposed project, of course, in the area of Bintulu as well. And then that's using the utilization of biomass. And this is one of those projects that we are currently working on as well. And it's part of the PCDS 2030 project for Sarawak. Next. So you are really envisioning a location where you can do a full utilization of the bio feedstock for the development of multiple products, including biochemicals, including hydrogen as part of that as well, but also on green energy production. Next. Yeah, and with that, it basically caps up, my presentation in terms of where some pockets of opportunities are in Sarawak and some of the direction of the state government. And I'm sure, the next speaker, Dato' Ismawi, will be able to provide a full spectrum of what SCORE has to offer. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Timothy, for the great presentation. So I think before going on to the next session with Dato' Haji Ismawi, just a reminder to all participants, if you have any questions, just feel free to write it down in the Q&A box. Yeah, and then we would address it during our panel discussion session later. So without further ado, I think I'll invite Dato' Haji Ismawi from Rikoda, and let me just share the slides. Excuse me, yeah. Okay, Dato', are you able to see the slides?
Yeah, I can see the slide. Can you
Okay.
go straight to the slide, which I think is the second slide?
Power generation? Okay.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay. Just let me know when you want to shift, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adam. I'm back now. Sorry for the technical problems. Or touching on this power generation, the heart of this, what you call the Sarawak corridor of renewable energy, has always been the availability of hydropower. And with this hydropower, we are able to attract many strategic industries to invest in Samalaju that provides not only investment, but more importantly, here also the job generation, particularly for our youngsters. And secondly, here is we are also, it has enabled Sarawak to position itself as a powerhouse. So much so that we are able to export our power, our electricity to our neighboring country. And thirdly, here is that SEB, of course, through the sales of electricity, has been able to generate sufficient revenue, good for the company. And at the same time, the Sarawak government is able to charge the water royalty. And in doing so, also is able to provide sufficient additional revenue to what they call to the Sarawak government. And with the availability of this hydropower or renewable power, now the state is able to push on its agenda called the green economy through what we call this energy transition. Because from hydropower, you are able to produce what they term here as the blue hydrogen. All right. Okay, next. Next, Adam. Next slide. This is just us. We are an authority. Our vision is, of course, to transform SCORE into a competitive and progressive region. But the key word here is sustainability. So we are prescribing to what we call this principle of SDG, the 17 SDG goals. And also in many of the business that we conduct, in many of the things that we are doing, we are also adhering very closely to the ESG principle also. Right, next. Over the years, since the establishment of Recorda way back in 2008, we have seen the fruits of the investment coming into the score area. As I mentioned just now, score is about 100,000 square kilometer, the size of Sarawak. Now, as you can see from the slide, the total approved investment is about 128.03 billion over the years. And this has enabled to create, I'm just talking about direct job here, about 52,266. But if you talk about the spin-off, if you include the indirect job, I believe the number of jobs here will even be more. And number of projects here is about 389. And you can see from the table there that most of in terms of breakdown, it comes from manufacturing, particularly from the Samalaju Industrial Park. And followed by next is, of course, you can see from the screen here is agriculture. Yeah, okay, next. Before that, Timothy has touched about this Samalaju Industrial Park. The Samalaju Industrial Park, if I can say here, is our icon. Recorda has been developing this park all these years. We have developed it this is not a brown field, participant. This is a green field. We started new. And as you can see from the slide here, that these are the investors that are already on the ground. The one on the left side, you can see from number 1 to number 8, 9, they are already having the plants, the factories there. And from number 10 to number 14, the one on the right side, their factories are under construction. So much so that we are only left with, out of the 8,000 hectares, we are only left with about 300 over acres left. The one marked in area A, B, and C. And the government, the Sarawak government, is now planning ahead with SIP2 to cater for more, investors, especially those in the green economy, right? Those from the, high value-added industries. Okay, next. Next, please. Adam, next, please. These are the factories that are already on the ground. The one on top here, OSIM. This is a Korean company producing polysilicon. Polysilicon is very important because if you want to do value change on the solar industries, it has to start with metallic silicon, polysilicon, and so on and so forth, all the way up to solar panel, right? Press metal is in aluminum smelting. This is a local company. When they first started, they started with one line, with only the power requirement at that time is about 600 megawatt. Now they have 2 lines already. And OM Materials is a public listed company from Singapore, but they have their mines in Australia. This is ferroalloy. Patama ferroalloy is also a company, ferroalloy plant. They have, I think this is a joint venture between Japanese company and then a Taiwan company, and also from South Africa. Sakura ferroalloy is also another ferroalloy plant. PMB Silicon is producing metallic silicon. Iwatani SIG Industrial Gas, this company is producing the industrial gas to support the industries in Samalaju Industrial Park. Elchem Carbon is producing one of the soda paste, I think, which is required by the metallic silicon and also the polysilicon plant. Cahaya Mata Phosphate, this is a company producing phosphate. Wenan Steel is still under land clearing. from China, producing steel. Okim Kumbo is producing what they call chemical that is required for this OSIM. And Longi is another interesting company which produce solar panels. The reason why this company choose to invest in Samalaju is because it can get its raw material from OSIM, which is producing polysilicon. Right. Okay, next. Next, please. As I mentioned just now, in order for you to attract investors to come to any particular destination, the government responsibility is to provide the facilities, to provide the enabler. For Samalaju Industrial Park, it is very critical for us to have our own port. Alhamdulillah, we already have our port, and our port is already in operation. And we also have the Samalaju Resort here. This is a hotel. And this hotel, apart from providing accommodation for visitors, it do have the facilities for the factory to use for their training facilities from time to time. And water treatment is important because the companies operating in the park, they need water. And due to the nature of the industries operating inside the park, safety is important here. That's why we have bomba, because these companies are chemical companies, heavy industries. So the presence of bomba here is important. Samalaju Eco Park here, this is a place where the workers can stay. They can stay here on rental basis. And of course, we have here the Samalaju Central, which is the shop houses for the residents working in the park here to get their what we call their services. Okay, next. As I mentioned just now, water is very important. At the moment, we only have 80 MLD of water supply, and the intake is about 40 MLD. We get another intake from Bintulu of size of 40 MLD. We have planned to meet the requirement, the demand by the investors to increase our water demand up to 200 MLD by the year 2035. And this is through the construction of another 160 MLD raw water intake and 120 MLD water treatment plant. So this project is already in the planning state, very advanced already. We are still waiting for the funding to be finalized. And inshallah, if everything turns to be okay, we should be able to get the project implemented by next year. All right, next. This is also another facilities that we are doing here. We are upgrading the road in the Samalaju Industrial Park to a two-lane dual carriageway. Right? Okay, next. Next, please. Okay, this is another industrial park. This I must qualify. This industrial park is not developed by us. This is developed by SCDC, and it houses the first mega methanol plant that we have in Sarawak. Okay, next. Okay, this is, as I mentioned just now, the development agencies that we have. The respective chairman there, UDA is Dato' Sri Alex. SDA is Dato' Ahmad Douglas Uga Ambas, and the northern region here, we have Dato' Ahmad Haji Awang Tengah. Or in short, for us in Rekoda, we have 4 boards to look after. The Rekoda main boards and the 3 boards under the regional agencies. Okay, next. Yeah, we undertake a lot of projects now, 9 projects from the federal government, federal funded project, but we have huge number of state funded projects, 251 projects altogether. And we are also tasked to implement mega projects, which is the Northern Coastal Highway. Previously, this project is termed as the Borneo Highway Phase 2, but now it is funded by the state, so it is named as the Northern Coastal Highway, which will link Limbang, Lawas, Brunei, and Sabah. All right. And we have also another highway, which is the proposed road from Miri, Marudi, all the way to Long Lama and Mulu. And this is important because one day you will be able to travel to Mulu using road and not just flying to Mulu. And at the same time, we are also tasked to develop a deep Lawas deep water port complex. This is important for us because it will enable us to attract industries to go to the Lawas area. And for the information of the audience, the area for the new Lawas deep water port complex, it has a natural draft of between 20 to 30 meter draft, natural. So this port, we don't need to do any dredging, right? And Rekoda is also tasked to what we call to implement the new Lawas airport to enable more bigger airplanes to fly to Lawas, all right, to the northern region. Okay, next. This is just to illustrate the number of projects. Projects here is important because the title of our seminar here this morning is something to do with projects. Without roads, we will not be able to close the gap, the gap between the urban areas and the rural areas. And at the same time, what is important here is road connectivity is important to open up areas right up to the border of Sarawak. And only when you have road connectivity, you will be able to get a very effective or very efficient transport and logistics. And as you know, Nusantara is now, Indonesia is talking about Nusantara. So the Sarawak government and the federal government is focusing a lot of efforts on the border development. And to do so, we need to construct more roads linking the towns to the border area. All right, so this is exactly what we are now doing in the in Urda, in HDA, and in RDA area. All right, next. Apart from physical projects, we also have developed master plans. People may be asking, why do we need master plan? Master plan here is important. As you can see, we have Kapit master plan, Bakun master plan, Blaga, because this will provide clarity, provide certainty to investors so that when they want to go to Bakun, for example, in future, they know where to build hotels, for example. They know where to build the shop houses. They know where to build the residential houses and all the resort facilities and so on and so forth. So this structured plan, these are plans that are approved by the State Planning Authority, and this will be documents that we can share with interested investors who are keen to invest in all these particular destinations. All right, next. The same thing with HDA, even though this area is remote, it is very important for us to have a very well-structured plan. We are not talking about Barrio, we are talking about Long Banga, and we have been tasked by the federal government to do roads, for example. I'm talking about border road. The roads that will be linking Barrio to Baklalan, which is across the border to Indonesia. And also we will also be constructing road from Barrio to Long Banga, where we have our integrated highland development agriculture station. All right, next. Next, please. The same thing goes to NRDA, which is in Limbang Lawas area. We have structured plan approved for Marapok. Marapok is, for the information of audience, is a border town between Sabah and Sarawak. The town in Sabah is called Sindumin. The town in Sarawak, Lawas, is called Marapok. So we also need to have a very clear structured plan here for investors to invest. The same goes to Sunda, the same goes to Trusan. So this is very important, as I mentioned just now, so that we want to attract people who are quality investment to come to all these particular destinations. All right, next. We are already designing an agro park. This not only designing, this agro park means it's going to be a collection center for the agriculture produce in that area. So you can develop agro industries beside agriculture. And this project is already at the tender stage in the Igan, the Muka area. For a start, I think this group of operator, they will start with chili. Okay, next. And we also are developing one what we call CPPC in Sungai Baji Agro Park in Sereke. This project is located within the Sungai Baji Agro Park, which is developed by LCDA. But for us in Rekoda, we are developing what we call the CPPC, the Center for Processing Packaging for this agriculture or produce. All right, next. The same thing to Spao. This area is also very strategic because it's located next to the Babuling Airport. This so that in future, if there are any produce, apart from what we call using our CPPC, they can also be connected to the port to be exported to any particular destination, lightweight, high value added agriculture produce. All right, next. So this is what we have been doing also in terms of socio-economic. We also take care of our people, the small entrepreneurs. I want to share with the audience here on one program that we have, Employ at Score, whereby we work together with the industry, we work together with the training providers. The industries will tell us what are the jobs, vacancies that they have in the factory. And then we together with the training providers will train these trainees. These are mostly the B40, and immediately these people will be working in the factory. And the response that we have for this Employ at Score has been very overwhelming. As you can see from there, these are the type of professional certificate, the competency-based module. And in doing so, this will be able to help us to enhance or to do capacity building, so the industries will not be worried about the need to have skilled workers working for them. The same thing for Community at Score, where we also tackle the small entrepreneurs, so that the small entrepreneur later on can be working together with big industries, big supermarket, for example, when they have sufficient goods that they can sell to the market. Coffee is a good example. All right, Kelulut is also another good example. All right, next. So in conclusion, I believe Sarawak, as mentioned by the two panelists just now from EPU and from Invest Sarawak, we are hotspot, and we believe that bankers like RHB and Bursa Malaysia can also be helping us to promote Sarawak. You invite very interesting panelists today. EPU is the planner, all right? We align to all the PCDS 2030. That's why you don't hear me talking about PCDS 2030. I've been doing that job for 10 years already. So, and we have Timothy, our marketeer, he markets Sarawak, he promotes Sarawak. But we in Rekoda, what makes us different from EPU and from Invest Sarawak is we are the implementer. We execute, we make things happen. All right. So thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much to all the participants for listening to my presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato' Haji Ismawi. So I think that's all the presentations. I think next we'll move on to the panel discussion. And yeah, I think before that, I'll pass on the floor to Alia.
Oh, Adam, I thought we were going to
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay, sure. All right, so I think we'll just straight away proceed to the panel discussion. So just to kickstart things, right? So this first discussion point is for EPU, Ms. Mildred. So given that Sarawak aims to achieve a GDP of 282 billion in 2030 from 146 billion in 2022, understand that PCDS 2030 is one of the key enablers. So how will the Sarawak government monitor the implementation of this PCDS 2030 to ensure that the long-term goals are met later on?
Yeah, thanks, Adam, and hi to my other panelists. And Dato' Ismail, I heard it's your birthday today, so happy birthday.
Thank you so much. The organizer picked the right date, so much so that I can't refuse to be a panelist.
Yeah, so thanks, Adam, for that question. And Definitely, this is a really key thing, right? Because a government can have so many strategies, but if you don't have a team of people that are looking into the monitoring and looking into the targets, it will never get done. So in the Sarawak government, the PCDS is under the purview of the Economic Planning Unit, and my team, the Performance Management and Delivery Division, we have actually set up the targets for each of these sectors, and my team is the one that's actively tracking, and we're looking at the implementation of all these projects to make sure that all the projects are on track. So that's what we have put in place, and we are very, very serious about it. And in fact, something that all the analysts can look forward to is in May of this year, we will be publishing our first annual report on our PCDS strategy. So you can look at that. You can show your investors, how much the Sarawak government has achieved and done in 2023.
Oh, I see. So that's, I would say, something like some form of midterm review, like what we have for midterm for the RMK. So maybe would there be any sort of midterm review for 2030, PCDS 2030 in this case? I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
potentially.
So the midterm for us will be 2025. But going forward, 2023 will be the first year we're publishing an annual report.
I
We will
see.
be publishing an annual report every single year going forward.
All right. Okay. So the next discussion point, I'd like to pose it to Mr. Timothy. So given that Sarawak was one of the highest states in terms of approved investments in 2022 or 2023 for that matter, most of it came from foreign investments. So how do you think does the business-friendly policies in Sarawak differ from other states? And moving ahead, are there any impending changes in regulatory framework or policies that investors have to bear in mind, given that Sarawak would want to make the state more investor friendly?
Hello. Yes. Thanks, Adam, for the question. Yeah, of course. I think one of the key differentiator, as you would obviously see, is in terms of how much focus we are in terms of developing the state. If you looked at the development budget that we have in Sarawak, I think it's 12.4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. That's four of your, the four key states combined, right? So you have Penang, Selangor, Johor, and I can't put my name on the last one, but four combined. I think that the development budget is not even equal to what Sarawak has planned. So in that sense, I mean, we are really serious around transitioning the economy. We are really serious about putting the right enablers in place. If you looked at the different components, even you have Miss Mildred here that we even have a mini Pemandu within the government that looks at the deployment of all these kind of projects. And not just that, the alignment by all civil service, I think that, and also the industries today now, they're starting to realize that the government is really serious about what we are doing in terms of the green trajectory, in terms of the green transition, in terms of the digital economy. And that's the very reason why a lot of these financial institutions like yourself are looking at Sarawak again, right? After the hiatus for many years, I believe. And I think this is all the work of, in terms of the state leadership, in terms of pushing us to the right direction. So as far as policy is concerned, and that's also the reason why they had Invest Sarawak in place in view to help the ease of doing business in Sarawak. That's and if you looked at a lot of the things that is put in place are really done strategically. So it's not random in any term. So for that, I think the Sarawak government is very focused in terms of helping investors, in terms of pushing out friendly policies, and things that you have to look out for is in our energy sector. We have just recently amended our electricity ordinance as well to allow IPP to happen. So I think those are some of the revelations of where we have moved. We are also the first state that has got the climate change law. So you are really looking at really serious attempts to move the state to the right direction. And of course, what Dato' Ismail has mentioned around our positioning to Nusantara and the ability to capitalize the new growth area in Kalimantan. These are all, strategic reasons why we are so geared up towards optimizing the opportunity, and we believe that the coming decades will be the decades for Sarawak, basically. So we are getting ourselves ready to capture those opportunities.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Timothy. Very good explanation there. So the next discussion point would be for Dato' Haji Ismawi. So when we talk about Ricoda, right, what has Ricoda done to ensure that the human capital development initiatives are in line with the evolving needs of the industries in SCORE area? And, I think just now you've mentioned, you've highlighted certain things like community at SCORE and some other initiatives, but I'm wondering, is there any more to that for Ricoda in ensuring the human capital development is, in sync with the developments of SCORE?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. When we first started SCORE many years ago, and when we are in our pursuit to attract investment to come to Sarawak, one of the things that we bear in mind is we do not want to attract industries, and then at the end of the day, we are providing jobs to foreign workers. That's not the principle or the philosophy of the Sarawak government. What is important here is we must be able to attract industries of certain technology and it is not a labor-intensive industries. It should not be labor-intensive industries because we do not have that kind of population to attract so many workers. So what we have done is, way back, even when I was still in that time they call it the State Planning Unit, now of course EPU, we have even conducted a manpower study specifically called SCORE. We commissioned one professor from 13 University to help us. And we have even engaged UNIMAS to help us. So that right from the beginning, we already know what kind of workers do we need. What skills should they have? What qualification they should have to meet the requirement of these industries. And these are dynamic. So what we have done also is from time to time, even when we facilitate industries that come over, we ask them upfront, what are the workers that they need? So that when we know, we are able to talk to the training institution in advance. So that the kind of training provided by the training providers will meet the requirement of these factories. And one thing we have to understand also, when factories start, they also do the manpower, their training in advance. I still remember when Tokuyama, the first polysilicon plant, the one that Osim took over, they trained a few of our youngsters, even in Japan. They trained them in Japan. Of course, we have to sponsor for this is what the role of the government, have to pay for some of it, and to come back. So in answering you, that's what we are doing. And what we are doing, the latest one is we have signed MOUs with many of these training providers, the universities, technical institutions. We engage very closely with all our investors. My officer will often go to Samalaju Industrial Park, keep on asking them what kind of training, what kind of manpower. But one have to accept the fact that sometimes we do not have all that we have. We allow some of the top level, for example, expertise, we allow them to come over. But over the years, there will be this understudy, provide understudy, and over a period of time, the local will be ready to take over. Let me clear the perception. You ask an investor, investors prefer to choose local workers. It's cheaper, actually. Many people think that it's cheaper to recruit foreign workers. No, it's not right. It's not true. Actually, it's cheaper. But what is important here is we want to make sure that our local workers, apart from having the technical qualification, the skill, attitude is important. The resilient. I'm very pleased to see that many Sarawakian, for example, English is not an issue. So when they are able to speak proper English, of course, they get along very well with the foreign investors, the investors that are coming to invest in the state. Adam, I hope I have answered your question. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dato' Haji Ismawi. So I think just to pick a question from the floor, someone was asking, specifically on SCORE, is there, are you able to share any financing needs or timelines for the projects you mentioned? I understand there's a lot of projects, your agro park, your food basket, I think you've got some highways, there's airport. So, but the question is, will there be any form of new financing issued in 2024? And if yes, perhaps what projects is it focused on?
Yeah, thank you. I expect that question actually. When you talk to bankers, they will always ask you this question, And this is a very exciting time for us because I received quite a number of courtesy call from bankers. Yes, but the funding to kickstart the project, of course, come from the government. All right, because I can quote example, the Northern Coastal Highways, the one I mentioned just now, the source of funding is from alternative funding from DBOS. In fact, for our 1.5 billion worth of project for the respective development agencies, as I mentioned just now, they all come from DBOS, all right? But what is important here is that the consultant, the contractors, their suppliers, now, they will be knocking at the doors of bankers to finance them, to fund their projects. Because when we do due diligence for contractors to come and participate in our project, one of the criteria is that they must have strong financial capacity. And for them to have strong financial capacity, this is where we also see the facilities, the credit facilities that they have. And thanks God, I believe many of them, because they have the track record, they are able to secure funding. So my advice to bankers here is that don't hesitate. You can come and see us, but you can also knock at the door of the Contractors Association, the Business Association. They will share with you, because these are the group of people. For foreign investors, it works differently. Foreign investors, they already have the backing of their own bank sometimes. But they do have, sometimes they do approach, they do the fundraising also. And in doing so, when they do fundraising, they sometimes they approach consortium of local banks. This is what they have been doing. Many of the industries that we have in Samaraju, they are doing that. They are getting their, their financial from both the local banks, the Malaysian banks, and also some of the banks that they have in their own, from their own country. Adam, I hope I have answered you.
Yes, that is a very great explanation, Dato' Haji Ismawi. So I think since Dato' mentioned on all these upcoming projects, maybe I can ask Mildred, right? Given that there's a lot that we could expect in terms of projects or initiatives in order for the Sarawak's economy to grow, right? Would you see, does EPU see labor shortage or labor issues to be a major hurdle in this context, because of course you're trying to achieve the growth, but perhaps in trying to get that, there may be some issues on labors, whether or not it's trying to get the locals or the foreigners to really ramp up whatever is needed to. Yeah, so perhaps I just want to get the views from EPU in this matter.
Yeah, definitely a great question, Adam. And I think for any government, labor will always be a very critical issue. And I think it's just not a matter of getting the right quantity, but also the right quality. And I think Recorda is playing a very, very important role. Dato shared his plans about matching the right workforce. And in fact, our State Ministry of Education, Innovation and Talent Development is really working very closely with the industry, right? We have this online platform called the Sarawak Workforce Information System, where we get the information from the industry. Okay, what is your projection for your future manpower needs? So we do have a database that says, okay, say the E&E sector, the oil and gas sector, what is the future projection? And what does the ministry do with that information? On the other hand, we work with our institutions, right? Our universities, our training centers. So we do have that database and we're working on improving it to really make sure that we are able to overcome any labor shortages. And in fact, big companies that come in, the Sarawak government also facilitates the needs for foreign manpower. And also under PCDS, we are really looking into improving the quality of our schools, our training institutions. Fun fact, Sarawak has actually 5 higher learning institutions that's owned by Sarawak. And we are looking into a policy of perhaps giving free education for Sarawakians in those 5 institutions by 2026. So all those are efforts towards ensuring we have that human capital supply that will be attractive enough for investors to come in to start their businesses, start their factories.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mildred. So I think I observed that in both slides of EPU and Invest Sarawak, I think digital transformation is one of the key pillars, to expand on. And of course, Mildred mentioned about internet connectivity, and I think there has been news about some potential prospects of building some data centers in Sarawak. I think there's already one in the Santubong area with a 1.2 megawatt capacity. So my question, I think this, I hope maybe Timothy can try to address this. Aside from having the clean or green energy in place in Sarawak, what do you think other factors could could accelerate or entice further the investors, for example, when you talk about hyperscale data center providers into Sarawak, aside from green energy being one of the factors that will lure them into Sarawak. Yeah, maybe you can share some insights on that if you happen to have.
I must say that, having you said besides the green energy situation, actually, most of them, the draw is green energy. I just have to reiterate that point. Of course, the other things like connectivity, the human capital side of things, and then the domestic market, the markets in Kalimantan and all that, those make a difference. But the primary reason for them to come to Sarawak is really, really around the availability of green energy. And that is something that we see, right? Because you talked about hyperscale centers, you are talking about at least 200 megawatts each installation. So it's not your 1.2 megawatt that we have now in Santubong. So it's really large scale deployment of that. And if you looked at the latest numbers, if we are going to be attracting the kind of data centers to be here, especially those hosting AI related applications, you need at least 17 times of the power that current households are utilizing. So what that means is your energy systems, renewable energy, especially for Sarawak, will have to grow in a very rapid pace to keep up with that development. And this is not unique for Sarawak. It's also a situation globally that's the reason why you're seeing data centers coming to this part of the world, Southeast Asia. I know if you looked at the overall context for Malaysia, Johor is one of the hotspots for data centers. Cyberjaya obviously conventionally has been. Now, a lot of them are starting to look at Sarawak. I think we have at least, based on what I've seen, at least in the tunes of 10 or 20 different interested investors to come to Sarawak for data centers alone, right? So in that, I think the primary draw that I hear from them is really around the energy situation that we have in Sarawak. But also the other part is our very focused strategy on digital economy. This is the other part that they are very keen to look at. So these two, with a steady policy and availability to scale up with green power, those are primarily the two drivers I would see from most of the investors that is coming in for data centers or related digital investments.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Timothy. So perhaps maybe one last, discussion point before we end today's session. So perhaps this is for Mildred. So Miss Mildred, um, you know, when you talk about the overall economy of Sarawak, what efforts are being undertaken or will be undertaken by the state government to ensure that there is an inclusive type of development in Sarawak, especially in the rural areas? Yeah, so perhaps you can just highlight, what are the key initiatives that are, in place, to ensure that rural development is, would come hand to hand, with the urban developments that we see in, places like Bintulu and Kuching.
Yeah, definitely. So if you think about PCDS, the second pillar is actually social inclusivity. And under our programs for expansion of road access, we're definitely looking at building more roads so that the more long houses can be covered. In the utilities, we're really expanding our electricity and water supply access. And other than that, our focus on, improving the condition of our dilapidated schools, our dilapidated clinics. So that I think is on the government social services, right? I think in terms of the economic opportunity for rural areas, YB Premier has established development agencies, not just Rekoda, not just the big ones in the industrial areas, but these industrial areas, these development agencies, for example, the Betong Development Agency, the Merda Mid Rajang Development Agencies, all those development agencies has a very rural focus. And one of their main goals is to increase income generation, right? And to look at those areas and say, these areas are maybe primarily palm oil, maybe primarily cocoa or rubber plantation. How can we really uplift the income of these farmers and, have more entrepreneurs in those rural areas so that, these areas can also develop and grow. Yeah. Oh, Adam, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. That sounds very good, Miss Mildred. So yeah, I think we've come to the end of the panels and Q&A session for panel 1. And before we end panel 1 session, I think I'd like to give a big thank you to all the 3 speakers, Miss Mildred, Dato' Haji Ismawi, and of course, Mr. Timothy, for taking your precious time to be part of today's webinar. And I think without further ado, I would like to pass on the floor to Alia.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our moderator, Encik Adam Muhammad Rahim, and our guest speakers, Ms. Mildred Voon, Dato' Haji Ismawi Haji Ismuni, and Mr. Timothy Ong for that insightful expert talk session. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on with our second panel session. Before we begin the second session, I would like to remind you that you may pose your questions to our guest speaker for today by typing out the questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Our next guest speakers for today is Dr. Chen Chun, who is the Senior Vice President for Strategy and Corporate Development at Sarawak Energy. Joining with him today on the same panel is Ms. Kathleen Q, Head of Sales and Operation at SEDC Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not hold any longer. I'm sure you are eager to hear what our guest speakers has to share today. I will now like to invite and hand over the mic to our moderator of the day once again, Encik Adam Muhammad Rahim, Senior Research Analyst, RHB Investment Bank Berhad, to lead the session. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Alia. So good morning once again to all the participants. And for this second panel session, it will be focused more on Sarawak's efforts to reach the energy transition aspirations. So that's why we have with us today Sarawak Energy and also SEDC Energy to share with us more on what would it take for the state to be green energy powerhouse. So I think without wasting time, I would like to pass on the floor to Dr. Chen Shun, who is the Senior Vice President for Strategy and Corporate Development of Sarawak Energy. So off to you, Dr. Chen.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, you will to share your screen, Dr. Chen?
Yes, I'll do that, yeah.
Okay. All right, we can see your screen. You may proceed.
Yeah, okay. Give me a minute here. Okay. All right. Very good morning to one and all. And thank you to IHB and Bursa Malaysia for giving Sarawak Energy the opportunity to share some of the things that we are doing here. I hope you're still seeing the screen, right? Are you?
Yes, we are seeing the screen, Dr. Chen.
I've been given 15 minutes. I only got a few slides. I think a lot has been published or a lot have been communicated over the media, and I think there are a lot of discussion about, and in the earlier presentation as well, talking about the importance and the need for renewable energy. And in Sarawak context, basically large hydropower. Yeah. So I just want to give a bit of update per se and kind of share what we are doing here. And then later on, I'd be happy to take some question if you know, and help to clarify any question that you may have. Right. So let's. Yep. All right. So we basically aim to achieve, like what we put here, a balanced energy development. So we still a developing country. So we still have this kind of dilemma issue that need to be looked at. Of course, we look at energy security, provision of power, reliability of power, sufficient energy for the industrial development and the economic development. That is still key as what been explained earlier on. And also the social aspect of the thing, affordability, as we said that there are still a big sector of our community, that still need helps in terms to climb up their economics ladder. So the affordability issue is still very much with us. So as of today, electricity in Sarawak is one of the lowest in the region. It's lowest in Malaysia, but it's one of the lowest in the Southeast Asian region. Okay. Of course, the primary reason for that is because actually we are blessed with a lot of water potential. So we're able to develop large hydropower, which is very competitive. But moving forward, as what been alluded by the earlier speaker, we're moving into high value industry. We're moving into this energy, although we have abundant resources that we have used, but it's going to become less and less as we develop more and more. Okay, and the cost is going to go up as well. So we will have to manage this affordability issue as we grow economy, as we move up the value chain. And above all, environment is and the word sustainability is there as well. So it's very important that we are conscious of the impact of our projects and how do we do it in a proper manner so that it can be sustained in the long run, and also in terms of its economic, technical, environmental, social aspect are all been well taken care of. Okay, so I'll share a little bit on that. So on the right side is basically a picture of Bakun. I hope you all, if you haven't visited there, I hope you have a chance in the near future to come along, and then you can see the impressive infrastructure that's being constructed and how we produce the green energy from the hydropower resources. Bit of history or so-called the commitment that we have made to the industry over the years. Since about 15 years ago, even before the Paris Agreement was put together at the COP, we already started our journey on renewable energy. We already started our journey on sustainability. Okay, so in Sarawak Energy, we started all this in the early 2010s. Okay, so from there, to our effort in developing the large hydropower, we were able to reduce our carbon emission by 73 or 70%. Okay, so what we have now today is our generation mix is about 70+% from renewable hydro, and the rest is still from our indigenous coal and natural gas resources. And moving forward, we see that we will maintain, or we have pledged actually to maintain at least 60% of our energy mix will continue to be renewable. Okay. And I'll explain later why do we do that as well. Okay. So that primarily will come from our hydropower, renewable hydropower. And then, as I mentioned, we have indigenous coal and natural gas, but we'll be focusing on using natural gas as a transition fuel or as a fuel for us to ensure energy security. Okay, when we depend on nature for energy, we of course we have to live with whatever the nature throws at us. We don't have full control of that. No? So we are using another resources, basically the locally available natural gas, as a way for us to maintain stability, security, no? And in some sense affordability as well. Okay. So while we're looking at hydropower, but at this juncture, we also started to look at the other renewable energy as well. Solar, biomass, biogas, and the smaller version of hydropower as well. Okay. There's a lot of talk about wind in the renewable energy space. Unfortunately, in this tropical belt, we don't have consistent wind. So we have done quite a bit of study on that. If you go around the world, all the tropical belt, we don't have wind energy or wind potential. You need to move at least to something like subtropical, no? Places in South Asia will be places like Vietnam kind of thing. Then they have a little bit more consistent wind, then they can develop wind projects. Right. So what we have 3 large hydropower at Batang Ai. They were commissioned 30 over years ago in the 80s. Then about 10, 15 years ago, we started our big hydro project with Bakun and Murun. They were commissioned in 2011 and 2014. And currently, Balai is under construction. We do have a bit of issue with the contractor on the construction side. So now we are resolving that. Capacity is about close to 1,300 megawatt. And we expect to commission it or to complete by 2028 at this stage. Okay. And a lot of things also in the news and also being shared by the earlier speaker. We now need more renewable resources. So Sarawak is now in a very interesting time that we see there is a lot of potential to grow our industry as well as to kind of secure our position as a green energy hub for the region because of abundant renewable energy resources, hydropower, and sun, right? Not just in Sarawak, actually in the entire Borneo. Okay, we can talk a little bit about Kalimantan, what is available in Kalimantan later on. So currently we are looking at what we call, or what the state government refer to as cascading power sources, okay, which is basically hydropower sources. So instead of building large dam with a big reservoir behind it, there are reason for it because with the ability to store water, it gives us security. But if you have to do a cascading kind of stages, that means beside reservoir, we also have what we call as run or river project. Okay, those that are more dependent on the rainfall. Okay, so we don't have a big reservoir. But the good thing about it is that it has smaller impact basically. It's very smaller environmental impact. So with the need for more renewable energy, what Sarawak Energy is doing now is we are going through a phase of very intensive review of all the potential that we have in Sarawak. So we are talking about another 2,000 to 3,000, or we're specifically focusing on 2,000 to 3,000 megawatt for about 9 or 10 river basin that is available throughout Sarawak. So we are conducting quite intensive study at the moment, and we'll prioritize project that where community are willing to or kind of supporting and accepting this project as part and parcel of their socio-economic development as well. Okay. Some of the places like Sungai Gat Basin, Tutor, Belaga, Tusan, these are some of the areas that we're working at now. We very much working with the local representative in the area and communicating to the communities, the villages. Perhaps some will need to be relocated, but we are looking also at the scheme of how we design all these hydropower resources, how do we tap this potential so that the last part of what I mentioned here, the place for developing only sustainable hydropower, that means there's no minimal impact on existing settlement. We try to minimize. Hopefully we don't have to relocate any people, and also affecting their day-to-day livelihood as well. And of course, protected area, forest reserve, all those things, we will avoid those. But at the end of the day, it must come, it must allow us to do an optimal design, you know, technically, commercially as well. Okay. So these are the things that we're working on. I think more story will come out in the coming months or the coming years. And we see this is a development phase of 10, 15 years kind of thing. So this project all take a long time because, you know, it's a big infrastructure. Okay. So this is our kind of how we are looking at hydropower resources within the state of Sarawak at this moment. Okay. Now, at the same time, I mentioned that we also have natural resource, natural gas. So natural gas is the gas that we use for ensuring security to support, to put it together with our hydropower resources, and so that we can maintain stability and reliability in our grid supply. And it's also an energy transition fuel in the way that we are using more efficient and modern gas turbine, so just put it this way, that means power generation equipment. We do have some of the older gas turbine, like what we can see here at Bintulu Gas Power plant. Some actually commissioned in the 90s. So these are what the earlier gas turbine that we have put in. We have made some improvement to it, like we said, at the 370 megawatt actually originated was open cycle, efficiency of just 30% kind of thing, but we changed it to steam or combined cycle, improve the efficiency to close to 50%. Now, then subsequently, our Tanjung Kidurong combined cycle plant, these are all at the higher end of the high efficiency end at 400 something megawatt. Both are commissioned recently in 21 and 22. They are in full operation now. And now we are in the, what I call, launching the projects on Miri and Samalaju as well. And these are now doing together with our sister company, Petros. And Miri will have 500 megawatt, due to be commissioned 28. And Samalaju will be somewhere between 1,000 to 1,005. Okay, depend on whether we are able to source the gas, the availability of the gas, and scheduled to be commissioned in 27, 28. Okay, so in the shorter term, this is where the new generation that will come along, as we also completing our ballet in 28 as well, and while at the same time we're looking at other renewable energy sources. Okay, coal. Yep, there's been a legacy use of coal. We still have 3 coal power plants, Sejingkat near Kuching, that was started or commissioned in the 90s, and they are reaching the end of their life. So we have starting their decommissioning schedule. In fact, we decommissioned 1 unit in 2021. Okay, and likelihood, if all go according to plan, then likelihood they all will be decommissioned by the end of this decade, before 2030. In fact, we have this plant now in Kuching, initially set up to supply energy, primarily driving the industry and the needs here. But now, over the last 10 years or so, it's more like supporting the grid in Kuching. So we are actually changing the scheme. In fact, we have put in battery, large battery system to support the grid instead of using this coal power plant. Okay. Then on the middle one, Muka Power Station, this was commissioned in 2009. Yeah, so still in the midline per se, so we continue to use it, and then perhaps we will start looking at decommissioning in 2030, as we try to reduce our dependence on the usage of coal because of the emission issue. Then Balingen, commissioned in 2019, 600 over megawatt. These are using more efficient boiler, circulating food ice bed, CFV boiler, more efficient. Yep, but so it's still very new. But we have pledged that, as what the Premier also have said, this will be the last coal-fired plant to be built in Sarawak. Yeah, so, but we will continue to sustain it because of the investment that already been made. So that is basically the kind of power generation landscape within the whole of Sarawak. Yeah. So, but at the same time, we are not looking at just Sarawak alone. We are looking at the regional power, how we're looking at interconnecting with our member. Currently, we have a connection with Kalimantan Barat. And by end of this year, we will be connected to Sabah and supplying to Sabah. And we are talking to Brunei now, okay? Or Brunei, I should say, they're talking to Brunei and Singapore at the same time. So we heard about ASEAN grid for a long time, but Sarawak, of course, would like to play a big part in it. But first, we will be focusing on Borneo grid. We're getting the grid, the 3 countries on Borneo, Brunei, Malaysia, and Indonesia to be well connected first. I mean, around the whole island, right? And then at the same time, the country that are nearest to us, Singapore, of course, and Philippines. And there is also a plan for another line to West Malaysia as well, under discussion with Petra as well. So we see that with the abundant renewable energy, particularly hydropower available in Sarawak, and then we are situated, very strategically within the center of ASEAN, we can play a big role and become the renewable energy source, or even become the battery of ASEAN. Okay, we can help the balancing the need of generation and demand across different regions of ASEAN. Okay. And all this, why we look at the investment in generation and looking at economic growth and providing more energy, we have a commitment to sustainability. We have to make sure keep an eye on sustainability all the time in terms of minimize our impact of our operation and on the environment, as well as impact on our people as well. Okay. So the United Nations goals, there are 8 goals that we have specifically identified that are relevant to our activities. So we have specific initiative and program on them. And we also have made a kind of a pledge or an additional effort to look at the 1.5 degree temperature rise regarding climate change. So we have pledged it, and it has been verified by SBT, Science-Based Target. They have looked at what we are doing, and they have given us a figure of 0.17 tons per CO2 equivalent emission per megawatt hour kind of target to achieve, so that to maintain the temperature rise, global temperature rise within 1.5 degrees. That means what we can do to help the whole world in terms of maintaining below the 1.5 degree. Okay. And how we're doing that is basically remain close with all the party or all the international people that are conscious about this issue. And particularly, we are focusing on hydropower. So we continue to engage closely with the international community of how to build sustainable hydropower, okay? Looking at the environmental, climate, and people issue. And we also engage with ICO, which is basically on the safety and efficient design of the hydropower projects. This will be my last slide. So among some of the latest things we heard about, I just start from the left, 10 gigawatt by 2030. So this is a new kind of challenge or target that we've been given, or we put ourselves in, that we will expand our generation so that we have 10 gigawatt of generation capacity by the end of this decade. So we will need to expand hydro, solar, and some other renewable energy sources as well. Natural gas will be here as a transition fuel, as what I mentioned, and also to help us ensure security. And we aim to provide green and secure energy supply for the growth of Sarawak, for powering the many plans that the government has. And in the middle here, high value add economy as we progress to a developed nation. We think that having renewable energy will help to us in enhancing the ESG compliance requirement for many industry now. Okay, so there is a kind of advantage, for people to come to Sarawak and having that green energy being available and help them to fulfill, that ESG requirement being kind of required globally now. And we see that RE pricing, the renewable energy, going to become more and more scarce commodity, and we will have to selective in terms of who we use, which sector we use, as mentioned by the previous speaker, and then in terms of how we can price our RE, accordingly. Basically, there is a premium to attach to all the renewable energy now, because it's a very much kind of sought after commodity, as well as for all the development now. So all these are done, all these are focused in accordance to the Sarawak government PCDS, post-COVID-19 development strategy. They are all included inside there. And it's how we work hand in hand with all the ministry and agency in developing the industrial further growth and development with a 2030 target. Now, doing all this, we have to be conscious about climate and sustainability, protect the planet, halt our climate change, and last but not least, the social development, the people side of the thing as well. Okay, thank you very much. I think I exceed my time a little bit. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Chen, for the presentation. But just as to let every participant know, I've seen some questions already posed for Dr. Chen, but don't worry, we will be addressing them in the upcoming panel session after SCDC Energy is done with their presentation. So I think without further ado, I'd like to invite Ms. Caitlin Q from SCDC Energy to begin her presentation. Yeah, on to you, Ms. Caitlin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Miss Catherine.
Okay. Right. That's it.
Okay, we can see your slides. Okay, great.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, the organizer, for inviting SCDC Energy for this event. So I'll just do a quick introduction of SCDC Energy. Just 1 second. All right, SCDC Energy has been tasked by the Sarawak government to spearhead the Sarawak's new energy economy by leading the charge for hydrogen initiatives. We are the force behind all these hydrogen initiatives and driving the downstream petroleum businesses, right? So SCDC Energy is in fact in the forefront of defining the future of sustainable and impactful energy landscape in Sarawak. Next slide. Allow me to do a quick introduction of SCDC Energy's leadership team, right? To your left, our CEO, Mr. Robert Hardin, who would send his apologies. He was supposed to be doing this presentation instead of me. So just a quick introduction. Robert has over 2 decades of experience in the oil and gas sector, coming from Petronas and across diverse divisions and all that. He was the founding member of SCDC Energy. So Robert has been instrumental in shaping the company's directions and trajectory. So as a wholly owned subsidiary of SCDC Energy, SCDC, Sarawak Economic Development Corporation, SCDC Energy operates with a steadfast commitment to advancing the economic interests of the region, and while we uphold the corporate excellence and innovation. So to the right, these are our top management team. So we have a Chief Operating Officer and various departments, supply, distribution. I'm from sales and operation. And then we have PDT, Project Delivery Technology, followed by finance, strategy, marketing, business development, legal, and Stratcom. So what does SCDC Energy do? We are involved in quite a lot of projects, right? So from the slide, you can see that we are involved in alternative low carbon fuels, hydrogen production, the value chain, and multi-fuel refilling station, as well, last but not least, mobility. So what does so we'll go through the five business projects. So the first being crude algae oil. We refine the crude algae oil for biofuel. So what we do is we grow them in the nursery, and then we harvest it. After we harvest, we use special methods of extraction to ensure the highest rate of extraction, and we process it, we purify it. The end product would be the jet fuel, gasoline, or diesel. Okay, so the jet fuel will be the sustainable aviation fuel. So this is how the crude algae oil looks like. This is the in the form of the origin in the nursery. Okay. In Bintulu, we have this bioalgae initial commercial plant. It is meant for microalgae cultivation as well as crude algae oil extraction. This project aims, the objective of this project is to develop the sustainable aviation fuel for the sustainable aviation fuel for aviation use. Okay, this project, basically, we collaborated with Petronas as well as AMIC, Aerospace Malaysia Innovation Center, where we look at what are the key factors that we look at is the UTC, unit technology, technical cost, the cultivation tank numbers, the oil production, and the extraction efficiency. Okay, so for this project, initially we allocated 50 acres of algae cultivation in Bintulu, but there is a future expansion up to 1,000 acres alongside a nursery which is in Kuching. If you look at the next slide, which is the picture of the ICP in Bintulu, Currently, 1,500 kilograms of algae seed has been delivered to Bintulu for this ICP. A total of 1,221 tanks has been installed. So this site has been already commissioned on site late December 2023. But the nursery is in Kuching. So a portion of the seeds has been transported to Bintulu for this ICP. Okay, so the next slide, basically, we talk about what is the correlation between hydrogen and CAO and sustainable aviation fuel. Basically, hydrogen is very vital in the converting CAO into SAF because the process is called hydrogenation. What hydrogen does here is it provides by the process of hydrogenation, it actually enhances the quality of SAF by removing all the impurities. So the transformation of a sustainable, a renewable feedstock such as algae into aviation fuel alternative, which is green. This basically tells you that hydrogen has great versatility. And it actually can contribute to the aviation fuel needs by going into by using the renewable feedstocks such as algae. Okay. The next project that I would bring up would be the Sarawak Hydrogen Project. Okay. This is the value chain I think Mr. Timothy has shared earlier. This is basically SCDC Energy is involved in everything except for the generation of production, energy generation, which is under Sarawak Energy. So if you're going down the left-hand side where we are in the production of hydrogen, we have three major projects, which is Rembus, Hornbill, and Hibiscus. Rembus being in Kuching, Hornbill and Hibiscus in Bintulu. And we're also looking to how we can actually use hydrogen to decarbonize the local industrial player by getting them to adopt a new way of manufacturing in the industry. And SCDC Energy is also involved in the hydrogen storage to the right, the pipeline, the storage, the ART and the buses. And we are also involved in multi-fuel station where we actually have refilling of hydrogen on site. Down the right, you have our collaboration with H2X, Submetro, Amic, Maida, Pegama into e-mobility. Okay, so this is basically a picture of our petrol station, our multi-fuel petrol station. To the left, you see all these tanks, all that. This is actually on-site production of hydrogen. It is the first of its kind, whereby it is a production on site and a refilling on site as well. That is why our multi-fuel station is called multi-fuel, because we have 3-in-1 kind of fuel that is available in the station. So the key components of this is because it's the first public hydrogen refilling station in this region for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Okay, the production from this plant is can produce up to 150 kilograms per day. Okay, currently it's still under commission. It will soon be ready. So this is how it looks like, the actual picture of what the station, the hydrogen production at Petros multi-fuel refilling station. The one in green is actually the electrolyzer. Okay. So now let me bring you to Rembus. Rembus is actually a plant that is located in Samarahan. This plant is with a production of minimum of 5 tons per day of hydrogen. And this is put in place to support the Sarawak public transportation system, the KUTS, as well as the ART. Okay, that plant, basically they use PEM electrolyzer, and then it has a distribution channel whereby it will be for ART to refuel there. Next is Sarawak Hydrogen Hub in Bintulu. we have two major projects with our partners in Bintulu. Project Hornbill is with the Japanese, namely Sumitomo and INEOS. The timeline of completion for this project is roughly around 2027, 2028. The key components of this would be the Japanese will make use of MCH, which is methyl cyclohexane, as a transporter together with toluene. They will export a total of 86 kiloton per annum of production of green hydrogen to Japan using MCH technology, and while the remaining of 2 KTPA will be reserved for domestic use. The next project is with Project Hibiscus is with the Koreans. Our partners are Samsung Engineering, Kenot, Korean National Oil Corporation, as well as Lotte Chemical. The project timeline is roughly around the same time as Hibiscus, which is around 2027, 2028. The key components is the Koreans will be exporting hydrogen with ammonia to Korea. Total production capacity is 150 KTPA, while 7 KTPA of green hydrogen will be locally consumed for domestic use. The rest of it will be combined with ammonia to become green ammonia of 850 KTPA for export back to Korea for various use. This is our latest project SCDC has embarked on, is a graphite manufacturing plant. The location is also in Bintulu. We are looking at to build a high-end graphite manufacture plant in Bintulu, whereby it will be in Samalaju Industrial Park. Basically, the plant will produce spherical natural graphite and synthetic graphite. Total investment of this would be $1.5 billion US. Up next is our multi-fuel refilling station. So to your right, this is how our station look. If you have not visited our station, please do so. The station, this is a first of its kind of station where we have 3 types of fuel, three in one station, where we have hydrogen refilling, EV charging, as well as the conventional fuel, which is the 9597. Okay, this is a flagship station for Sarawak, and is first of its kind in this Asia region, in this ASEAN region, I would say, that will have a hydrogen refilling together built under the canopy in the station itself. So SCDC Energy is targeting to open over 100 stations in Sarawak, but how we'll fan it out is the major ones will be equipped with hydrogen and EV charging, but the rest, such as the one in the rural area, we will look at how the demand goes. Not likely to have hydrogen, but definitely will be equipped with EV chargers to empower the green mobility. So this is the green icon on petrol station. These are the main flagship station. We have 2 in Kuching, and then followed by Seri Aman, Sibu, Bintulu, and Miri. This basically is to make sure that the mobility of is connected across Sarawak. Okay. So what we do with a multi-fuel station, other than giving fossil fuel dispensing, electric car charging, and hydrogen refilling, we are planning to have educational or informative platform as well, whereby we can educate the public about what hydrogen is, how we can put Sarawak on the map in being the first and being in the forefront of developing green and renewable energy in this part of the world. Okay, and of course, as we also provide lifestyle convenience, where the station will also have the convenience stores with coffee machines and quick serve restaurant and so forth, and all the station will be equipped with such convenience. Also, of course, they will depend on the local demand. So these are my last two slides. We are looking into green mobility. SCDC is actually actively involved in green mobility in terms of we are taking in the mobility sector where if you look at the picture, that this is actually a Toyota Mirai, which is a fuel cell vehicle. It's been featured in the UMW Toyota Motor in the Beyond Zero recently, I think sometime February this year. Yeah, at the back, that's the refilling. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Catherine. I think we would proceed to the panel discussion with both panelist speakers, which is Miss Catherine and Dr. Chen. So maybe just to, I think you can stop sharing, Miss Catherine.
Okay.
Okay, just to kick off the panel discussion and also address some of the questions from the floor. Maybe this question would be for Dr. Chen, right? So I understand that you mentioned about the ASEAN grid and also the Borneo grid, and it seems that Sarawak Energy is actually part of this hydropower project called Mentarang it's Mentarang Hydro Induk Power Plant in North Kalimantan. So I understand that Sarawak Energy has about 33% stake, whereas the remaining it comes from two other Indonesian parties. So just wanted to understand what's the rationale for Sarawak Energy to be part of this. Is this potentially part of the ASEAN grid that you mentioned earlier on? Yeah, that's the question.
Yes. Thank you for the question. You can hear me all right, right?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, we have worked on this. Maybe I will look at the potential first. Why we went to Indonesia or went to Kalimantan specifically, I mean, there's a lot of talk or it's in the news. Sarawak have 20,000 megawatt of hydropower potential. Kalimantan, they basically share the same mountain range as us. And with a bigger landmass, they have more. They have probably 30,000-40,000. That's less than half of what Sarawak, or that's less than double of what Sarawak has. So there's huge potential hydropower in Kalimantan, basically. Most of it is in North Kalimantan. Yeah. And for one reason or another, none of them has been developed yet. So we went there. It's basically, of course, to our kind of a neighbor engagement, and they have invited us to look at the potential, how they can also follow fairly similar kind of objective or similar program as how we develop our hydropower resources and bring that experience over to them. So we look at it as exporting of our knowledge and also sharing our knowledge and expertise with our neighbor. And at the same time, it's also as we expand our business beyond Sarawak shore. Yeah. So currently, the Mentarang Induk hydropower is started construction already. It's a partnership with two local company, or I would say they are big company, huge conglomerate in Indonesia. We own 25% of the whole project. Yeah. So this is part of our investment, looking at how we can share our knowledge and in a way also expanding the hydropower resources on the Borneo Island. Okay, yeah. So that hydro at the moment is together with we are not involved in the development of the industrial part. There are other parties involved, but the hydropower will be primarily for the industrial part to be constructed there. And this is also part of our vision of the Borneo grid now, not just connecting and selling our energy today, but in terms of the sharing of the energy between both borders, across the borders as well. We have a time difference of 1 hour when they operate 1 hour later than us, so there is a difference in terms of how the consumer come online, the demand kind of thing, so we can help each other in terms of that. Okay, and it's also quite well as well, because our rains come during the northeast monsoon, their rain come during the southwest monsoon. So I think it's quite a good complementary for us to have hydropower or water ability being at two different times of the years. Yeah. So that is basically our vision, and we foresee that there will be more projects and there will be more collaboration in the future. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chen. And just to take one question from the floor, there's this question saying that, given that there's just so much of all this manufacturing and heavy industries, you got your ethanol, your hydrogen projects, your graphite projects here and there across many industrial parks. So will there actually be enough electricity in the grid to cater for all these upcoming projects? And how does Sarawak Energy basically ensure that there is enough power for all? For all of Sarawak, particularly for all these upcoming projects when you talk in relation to the industrial sector or manufacturing sector.
Yeah. The question of whether there's enough electricity, especially the question of enough green electricity, the answer is never enough. Okay, it's probably one. And whether we have electricity today for all the industrial need as what being announced in the newspaper or what you hear in the news, the answer is definitely no, because some of the people for one reason or another, they're looking at the long term of what the whole facility would need. So the quick answer is that then working together with the government, there is a committee which look at the power planning, which industry will get how much power, okay? And which industry will get how much power to start up first. So we have allocated together with the government, we have allocated enough power, which I believe, for the industry that have announced themselves that they're coming to Sarawak, for them to kickstart, okay? Because they will not start immediately consuming that full volume. There is years of ramping up.
Yes.
So working with them and looking at that aspect and see how, to match their ramping up, their demand as our supply. Because we don't want to build and then waiting for them to ramp up. So it's not economical. No, there's a carrying cost in that. So we try to develop our project in sync with their needs as well. And at the same time, this is also how we have a strategy of developing or using natural gas to complement our hydropower project, because hydropower take many years to construct. Yes, typically take 8-10 years, So it will be longer than whatever industry they want to come on board. So for the time being, we will be able to have some gas turbines supplying them, but in the longer term, the renewable hydropower will come online, and then we'll maintain the generation mix within that, 60% renewable energy, emission below 1.5 degree pressure we have mentioned. So that all the industry they're taking the electricity, they think they can commit to the customer in the long term that the energy they're going to get in Sarawak have taken into the consideration of climate issues. They would not have a problem that when they face the customer and then they got asked this about energy question, the source of energy, how green energy, the emission issues. Yeah. So we have that strategy in place on how to meet the demand, and certainly we will work very closely with the government as well as the industry that coming along. How do they ramp up or how do they build up? Yeah. Okay. I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chen. So I think the next discussion point will be for Ms. Caitlin. So, given that there is the two major hydrogen projects, Hornbill and Hibiscus, and also the Rembos hydrogen facility for the Kuching ART. So the question here is that I understand for the one in Rembos is specifically for the Kuching ART, which is powered by hydrogen, whereas the ones in Hornbill and Hibiscus, I would say the majority of what is produced is going to be exported outside, and I think there's some amount that will be used for domestic. But my question here is, is there much use for hydrogen in Sarawak? Given that Rembos has already taken care of the Kuching ART's hydrogen needs. So the what is planned for domestic use coming from Hornbill and Hibiscus, is there a lot of demand to use such hydrogens? And maybe you could relate to the point whereby you expect some hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. That's my questions in terms of whether or not the domestic use of hydrogen aside from the Kuching ART would be prevalent in the coming years in Sarawak.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, you're right. The Rambus is fundamentally meant for all the transport system, whereby the ones in the project that is in Bintulu, the remaining the majority of it will be exported to their various countries use. The remaining of for domestic use would be for us to utilize it to decarbonize eventually all the industrials around Bintulu, because that is basically Bintulu is an industrial town, right? And a lot of these industries, they are not have not adopted to using a renewable energy as, or add on some renewable resources to their energy mix. That is why we maintain a little bit for domestic use, because we would want to change the whole landscape. We cannot just depend on, we are the one producing, and we are not, adopting the concept of going green as much as we can. So yeah, the domestic use would be for industrial, perhaps also for some of the transportation needs as well, to convert or to decarbonize the fleet for some of the industries as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms. Catherine. So I think okay, so maybe the next discussion point, or which is something highlighted from the floor, something to do with the cross-border or cross-state electricity plans. Okay, there's already a collaboration with Indonesia and in North Kalimantan, but the next thing is in terms of the proposed interconnections between Sabah, Sarawak, and Kalimantan. Could Dr. Chen maybe share what is there any sort of cost sharing breakdown that is already being suggested, with the relative parties, such as how do you say? Is there, sorry, I would like to rephrase the question again. So in terms of the connection within Borneo, what are the potential cost sharing breakdowns with any of the potential parties, such as Brunei, Singapore, Indonesia, and Philippines?
I think this interconnection are all, how should I mention it, bilateral contract or bilateral agreement between two parties. So it depends on the complexity of the interconnection. For Sarawak, Kalimantan, Brunei, Sabah as well, we are on the same island, so relatively simple. So what we have to do is build each other transmission line to the border, and then we connect to each other. So we were basically responsible for the cost of building the transmission line to the border, basically. So we pay each other. We don't have share cost per se. We just do our own infrastructure on our own land, no? Then it's just a straight connection between the two conductors. That's it, And of course, a control in terms of how much it transfer. That is for the operator to work out, then the power can transfer. But for more elaborate interconnection, like the other islands, Singapore, West Malaysia, Philippines, then you need a huge investment on undersea cable and on a new technology called HVDC, which we don't use here. No? So for that, there is a what we call interconnector, and there will be a consortium that actually investing and constructing and operating that particular, we call interconnector. So give an example of what we're discussing on our Singapore partner now. There are multiple partners in Singapore, including the government as well, or between Sarawak and Singapore government. So the several companies in Singapore will be taking equity in this consortium, like SCB as well. And we will also be other parties, multinational, that will be involved as well. And that will be the kind of investor into that interconnector. And then between the electricity transfer from Sarawak to Singapore, both sides will have to contribute to what we call the wheeling charge. That means for the use of the cable. So that cost is being done kind of share, or basically there is another investment opportunity to build that interconnector. There is another set of business in terms of carrying electron from one side to the other side.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chen. And maybe again for Dr. Chen, any plans for floating solar in the existing dams in Sarawak at the moment, or is it still too early?
No, we already started our pilot project at Batangai. We're 3 hydropower, Batangai, Bakun, and Murung. Okay, So Batang Air, 50 megawatt is currently under construction now. Today is Q2. In the next quarter, I hope to be able to commission it. So I think equipment are sitting there. They're doing the installation work now. Yeah. And at the same time, we're also working on the expansion plan because there is opportunity to expand it by another 100, 200 megawatt. Yeah. Then at the same time, we have done some, I would say, high-level conceptual study at Baku di Murum as well. We have few partners working with us. And now we are at the juncture in terms of thinking how should we kind of proceed with those. No? Proceed with those. There's a lot of interest on large-scale solar in Sarawak. Okay. But there are a couple of challenges. One is our tariff is a bit low. Our tariff is much lower than in West Malaysia. With a lower tariff, then we can't provide things like feed-in tariff or whatever you have in other places, right? And secondly, we have a smaller system. So technically, there's commercial aspect. Then on the technical aspect, we have a smaller system. So the amount of megawatt of solar, intermittent solar, is variable. The system can accommodate is a lot lower. So we also need to be conscious of that as well. So we're looking at all these technical and commercial issue and see what is the best way for us to incorporate solar as a generation mix together with our hydropower. Okay, so there is a plan. So things will come out in the next couple of months or next year.
Okay. And speaking, since you mentioned all this floating solar, your plans to expand beyond hydropower and whatnot, does SEB, do you see as Sarawak Energy's plan to fit very well into the federal government's National Energy Transition Roadmap or NETR? Given that NETR has received a lot of attention in the past few months since it was launched.
Yes, I think we will be playing some role. I will probably say in the longer term, First of all, we need to get ourselves connected first somehow, or unless we're also looking at exporting hydrogen over there, not the shipment of hydrogen over there. But this is something to be further discussed. I think not just between Sarawak Energy and probably TMB or the Suruhanjaya Tenaga, right? The ST in Peninsula. But also between the two governments, the federal together with the state government in terms of what level of collaboration we will do. We will work together to achieve the NETR targets, which is a very, very challenging target on net zero by 2050. Yeah. Okay. So we have some discussion, but of course, as far as electricity is concerned, we will need to work on that interconnection first. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Chen. So maybe the next point to discuss is with regards to there's a question asking about the feasibility and practicality of hydrogen projects in Sarawak. So with that being one of the concern, Ms. Kathleen, can you just maybe provide some colors? What is there any overall or some ballpark figure of the total budget that has been allocated for hydrogen initiatives in Sarawak?
That is a very tricky question. I can't give the figures now, right?
Okay.
But what I can say is hydrogen is indeed very capital intensive project to go in. Of course, Sarawak government has a big role in it. So the fundings, I would say we will get from both Sarawak government as well as from external source as well. And coupled with our international partners, they are also, chipping in a lot of fundings to the project to ensure that the project is a success. Yeah.
Okay. And just now you mentioned some during your slides you talk about all these multi-refueling stations, on top of your normal diesel and 195, you've got electric and hydrogen. So my question is, okay, I understand that Petros would want to expand all these multi-refueling stations across the state, but I assume that maybe in some states, the hydrogen fuel will not be available. But let's just not go somewhere very rural. But if we were to have, let's say, even if you were to have a multi-fuel station that has hydrogen fuel, the only type of purchaser that I can think of is, for example, the SEDC hydrogen bus. I'm not too sure any other type of vehicles that would go to the multi-refueling stations. So I appreciate if you can provide some more insight on this as to who will exactly use or fuel using hydrogen at the respective petrol stations.
Okay, good question. As of now, what you see is what you get. We really just have
Okay.
the buses, as well as some of the Toyota Mirais and some of the fuel cell vehicles, passenger vehicles that is currently on the road. But what we are looking at is the future, looking into the future, because to build this hydrogen economy or new energy economy, we need to have all the value chains be ready. So if we do not put in place a refilling of hydrogen, there will be like a chicken and egg. Which will come first? The infra comes first, or the vehicle, or the need for hydrogen. And by the time, if this thing were to take off, and we only start to scramble to build something for that, it will be too late, right? But at the same time, SEDC Energy is also working to decarbonize, like what I have shown in the slides, that we are looking to decarbonize a lot of fleets that is by industrial use. For example, we are looking at converting some of the commercial vehicles, instead of using ICE. Instead of an ICE engine, we are trying to encourage them to change into a hybrid hydrogen plus electricity kind of a vehicle. This is what is going on. This is being widely used now, especially in Europe and in China, where they do not rely so heavily on fossil fuel, but on the grid as well as on hydrogen production. But of course, in China, the hydrogen is not green, right? So what we have here is not only it is green, it is sustainable as well, because it's all from hydro dam, right? And so yeah, this is where SEDC is working on, and we have to create the value chain in order to make this happen. Well, to me, I think it's a chicken and egg kind of a situation. Yeah.
All right. And still talking on multi-refueling stations, right? How much, I mean, do you have any idea as to what's the estimated cost for all the planned refueling stations, or maybe at least what's the rough cost for one refueling station? And secondly, I mean, are there any plans to expand fueling stations to Peninsula? I think that won't be something in the near future, I suppose.
Yes, to answer your second question, yes, we definitely have plans to
Oh,
expand
okay.
outside of Sarawak, but for it at this present moment, we want to make sure that Sarawak has everything that we aspire to have, that will make sure that Sarawakian gets whatever we promise, the government promised the rakyat. So that's one. But if you are talking about the costing of building a petrol station, without I can give you a ballpark figure. For the normal, probably you're looking at about couple, maybe 6 million or so ringgit, just for a normal petrol station, right? Not excluding hydrogen. Yeah.
Okay, not excluding.
Excluding hydrogen.
Oh, excluding hydrogen. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I think we can move on to the next point of discussion. So, just now Dr. Chen was talking about the thermal power plants in Sejingkat, Muka, and Balingan, which would be soon. I mean, which will later expire. So, what are the plans for Sarawak Energy upon expiry of this thermal plants in regards to their the expiry of their PPAs? What's the plan on afterwards? Yeah.
When they reach their end of life or end of
Yeah.
useful life, then we will review.
I think the question here is upon expiry of the respective PPAs.
Yeah. Yep. The PPA also coincide with the end of life or useful life.
Okay. All right.
But basically, we have pledged to reduce the dependence of coal, and it's also not that attractive commercially now, because mining is an expensive activities as well. And with a large geographical area, of course, Sarawak, so transportation cost is really going up. So we were looking at project by project. But at the recent days, some of us probably have heard about Sarawak move into biomass generation, bioenergy. So we're also looking at alternative fuel like wood pellet and that kind of thing, whether it makes sense for us to convert all these things into using biofuel as well. So, but that is to be considered at the later stage, no? Or even most likely will be more looking at the commercial aspect. Of course, there are some technical issues need to be resolved, right? Yeah, but also we also need to look at both technical and commercial and whether it makes sense to keep them longer or to extend their life to use this biofuel. But at this stage, most likely we will stop using coal. But whether the plant will continue or not, it depends on whether we can find other way of using it. Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
that's explain it. Yeah.
All right. And with regards to the plans for Sarawak to export energy to Singapore, Sabah, or even west of Malaysia, is there any latest progress or status on this? And can Sarawak actually send the energy directly to Singapore, or does it have to go through Peninsular Malaysia?
Current discussion and negotiation is direct to Singapore. I mean, technically, it's more efficient rather than rounded way. You go to another party and then get kind of longer route and then more processes or what we call conversion. But the current negotiation for to Singapore project is direct, and at the same time also direct to Peninsula which will be another cable. But it's a big project, many billions of US dollar. So, but it won't happen until the next decade. We are looking at most likely in the 30s and 31, 32, things like that. Because we have to book the cable. The cable is in high demand. So all the pre-manufacturer around the world that can manufacture this type of cables.
Okay.
For interconnection to Sabah, we expect the transmission line. These are overhead landline. So that will be commissioned by the end of the year. Maybe October, November, and then the power exchange will occur. Yeah.
Okay, and speaking of in trying to have a relatively stable supply of energy, I understand that Sabah has, I think, started to explore on all this huge scale battery kind of facilities. So I'm not too sure if maybe Sarawak Energy is potentially looking at that kind of energy storage, in the form of huge batteries.
Okay. Battery, I think mean lithium ion battery, or sometimes we call it BESS, battery energy storage system.
Yes,
we have a project under implementation now, 60 megawatt hour. As what I mentioned when we look at the coal plant in Kuching, right? We are investing one with battery so that it can use for grid support services. Okay. Basically, not so much for energy storage, but more in supporting the grid. But for energy storage, because we have hydropower potential, we are looking at pump storage, pump
hydro. Okay.
So we also have a kind of parallel study now with a few international consultants coming to help us in terms of looking at the potential for pump hydro storage. So that is perhaps it's better storage for us if we talk about multi-days, because battery energy storage normally day and night on the 1 day or 2 days at the most, You can't have such a big scale. But pump storage, you can have weeks or months, depending on how big is your reservoir or the storage that you have. So we're looking at those areas where we will have potential for pump storage and look at how to kind of integrate them into the use in the grid, in the grid operation. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, sorry, yeah. And with regards to, exporting energy to Singapore, right? Does the cables have to pass through Indonesian maritime waters, if you happen to know?
Yeah, it has to pass through. I think about something like 70% will be in Indonesia maritime water.
Okay. I mean, wouldn't that, I'm not too sure, would that cause any major hurdles, maybe Indonesia would want some form of, I don't know, royalty or what, from the fact that you're laying the cables under their waters?
I mean, that's why I think that project this is a specific project about interconnector, right? So there's a consortium working on that. So Indonesia I think, will be part of the consortium. So
I
they
see.
are there. So we also involve their parties. Yeah.
Okay, interesting to know.
So in a way, they are basically they is just providing a service, what we call in electrical means is wheeling service. You're wheeling energy from one end to the other end. Yeah.
I
So-
see. Okay. Okay, I think the next point of discussion is for SEDC energy, right? Okay, sorry, maybe back to Dr. Chen. Maybe would Indonesia want to be paid a fee allowing the cable to go through their waters? Okay, this is a very interesting question. So any thoughts on that, Dr. Chen?
I don't know. I'm not sure it's about fees or anything like that. I mean, at the moment, I said that cable or that connector I think, will be on multinationally. It's a project
Oh,
itself.
our own multinationally. All right. Okay.
So very likely, some Indonesia partner will be inside the consortium,
Right. Okay. Okay. Understood. Okay. So now moving on to the next point to discuss, right? For Miss Catherine, right? Just now, of course, we all know that SEDC Energy is part of this graphite manufacturing plant with a MNC called Galois or Galois. Okay, I'm not too sure how do you pronounce it, but
Alois.
Galois, okay. And I just understand like what's the rationale behind this, because from how I see it, it's basically okay, you're just setting up, it's just like any other company. For example, you've got Press Metal in Samalaju, which just produces aluminium products, and basically that's it. I mean, and most of it goes for exports. But as for this graphite manufacturing plant, if I recall correctly, I think it has some links to electric car batteries. I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to, form the link. Like for example, hydrogen, okay, first is for export and some is for domestic use. So just wondering in terms of graphite, like what's, the main use of it, who will be the main users, and where will the demand be coming from? Because I understand, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first graphite plant in ASEAN. Yeah,
Correct.
if I read that correctly. Yeah.
You're right. Graphite is graphite manufacturing actually reflects SEDC's commitment to innovation and diversification of our business line. All right. So graphite itself, its inherent properties has great conductivity. Therefore, you're right. It is used a lot in the EV battery manufacturing, right? And how it ties into SEDC range of businesses or diversification, you can call it, is that we are also stepping into this e-mobility, right? So we are also trying to bring in a new kind of innovation to Sarawak to make Sarawak like a hub to produce all these energy-related technologies in Sarawak. So one of it being getting graphite in, and making Sarawak the hub for people to export the graphite to the rest of the world, like we becoming the key player in Sarawak. To produce lithium-ion batteries, or like what Dr. Chen has said, the energy storage system, they all require graphite in the components. Therefore, by working together with Galois, with their technology, we can actually grow this business in Sarawak to make Sarawak a hub, basically for all these new technology, innovation. When people look at us, we are not just agriculture based. We are no longer just agriculture based. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Miss Katie. And coming back to the hydrogen space, right? I understand just now you were showing in your slides as one of the key components in producing hydrogen are electrolyzers. So is it that important? And I was just reading an article a few days back saying that the market for electrolyzers is very saturated. But at the same time, I heard that there are some local companies. I mean, for this instance, I can mention, since it's publicly announced in one of the announcements on Bursa, there's this company called KKB Engineering, which intends to be involved in the production or manufacturing of hydrogen electrolyzers. So I'm just not too sure, like, how do you say it? Because you've got your hornbill, your rhombus, and your hibiscus. So I mean, do we really need a local player to cater for this electrolyzers? Given that, I mean, assuming that the global hydrogen electrolyzer market is very oversupplied. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to know, if Sarawak really needs their own electrolyzer manufacturer.
I would say yes. Because technologies is evolving. Innovation is technology is evolving. I think what we have today and what we have in 2 years' time, the electrolyzer may have already with advanced technology and all that. So yes, you are also correct that the electrolyzer market is very, very saturated. That's right. So, but it doesn't stop anyone from going, especially a Sarawak company trying to, jump onto the bandwagon and partake in this. Maybe they have a better technology and they can produce it at a much cost-efficient manner. Then I would say why not? Because that will also create another job opportunity for the Sarawakians, right? And also perhaps can upskill a lot of Sarawakians to be able to take on this kind of new industry, new technology in Sarawak. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a very good explanation, Miss Kathleen. And coming back to Dr. Chen, right? I understand that you've already highlighted a bit on the cascading dam plans by the YAB Premier of Sarawak. But maybe I understand that this cascading type of dams, they don't really require a lot of land. But okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that this kind of technology came from some of the Nordic or Scandinavian countries. I forgot whether it's Sweden or Norway. But from what I understand, it's based on how do you say, in terms of a cost-effective basis. I mean, the cost to basically uh to set up a cascading dams, in relation to the amount of power comparing to a normal huge hydropower dam, cascading dams tend to be a bit costlier. I mean, is that correct, Dr. Chen? If you happen to have any understanding on that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, cascading means that on the same river you have a few, right?
Oh, a few,
You
okay.
don't build one, you build a few, no? Cascading. There are cascading potential, and like you say, from the economic analysis, if you are not, or maybe I should explain, then when you do the cascading, you have a few scheme. Then the scheme can be what we call reservoir type. I mean, the conventional way, we have a large reservoir to store water, okay? Or you have what we call the run-of-river type. I mean, you don't have a reservoir, just following the flow of the water.
Okay.
So the turbine there, you still need to build a structure, but you don't have the big reservoir behind, you can't store water. So whatever water, if you don't use, it just flow away. Yeah. So it's called.
Okay.
So when you talk about the economics, it's basically the difference between the two. Because you are able to store, if today rain heavily, I can store, I can use it tomorrow. But run a river, if you don't have a lot, you don't have a customer which take power, you don't need their rain that much, the water will flow away. You can't use it tomorrow. You hope for rain tomorrow. Yeah. So that is the big difference. So all these are already there. In fact, we have somewhat a cascading scheme. Bakun and Murum is somewhat a cascading, although Murum is the tributary to the river that Bakun is built on, but it's also some form of cascading. Yeah, kind of cascaded. But both are big reservoir. Yeah. So now we are looking at the entire scheme of things and see how they. Now, what happened it give an impression that this cascading or run-of-river project are more used in Western country or many other country. The reason about it is because they have developed all the big reservoir hydro that they have. All the big reservoir are more economical. So they have done that years ago. So whatever that they have left to do is only those that are less economical at that time or last time. But in today's climate, where the energy costs have gone up, those less favorable or economical project in the past now become economically viable. So those are one of the river project. So they added those cascaded, no, added those one of river scheme to their reservoir scheme. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we are looking at the whole thing and everything. Of course, all the river basin that we mentioned, they do have reservoir potential, the one that big reservoir, and we will need to look at that as well as run a river project as well, and what are the combination, the best combination of them. Yeah. The
Okay.
cost will go up. I can assure you. I mean, material costs, labor costs, transportation costs. Of course, costs will continue to escalate, right? Yeah. So the energy costs will go up all the time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chen. Okay, maybe one last thing to discuss with Miss Catherine before we end today's panel discussion. So, with all NCDC Energy looking at promoting or the production of hydrogen and even sustainable aviation fuel, which is derived from microalgae. So in general, right, what are the main challenges or hurdles that NCDC Energy basically faces in trying to really how do you say, ensure that these projects come onto stream. For example, the Hornbill and Hibiscus project, for that matter, because those are very huge projects and they have overseas companies like Samsung, Lotte, Sumitomo, and others. So yeah, I just wanted to understand what are the key challenges that SCDC faces in really trying to make this materialize, for Sarawak.
Okay, thank you for that. Number one, funding. Number two, funding. Number three, fundings.
So speaking of that, right, Ms. Kathleen, I mean, I understand there's some ballpark figure being mentioned in some of the articles, especially for the hydrogen project that is currently being developed by Samsung and the other Korean companies. So where does that actually? Yeah, actually, I was just about to ask because these investors come into Sarawak and then you let them build their hydrogen production, and SCDC Energy is the one actually spearheading this efforts. So I'm just trying to see the linkage, like what is basically in it for them. And of course, you said funding is an issue. So maybe you can try to maybe connect the dots in trying to see what basically incentivizes this foreign companies to come to Sarawak aside from having green energy availability.
Okay, yeah. I think in the very, very beginning, when foreign investors would like to take on any state in Malaysia, first thing they will look at is, of course, the political stability of the state. So for Sarawak, politically, we are very, very stable. This has been mentioned by many investors that they think that our political leaders are very pro-business, right? Putting in place a lot of policies to especially those like these post-COVID-19 strategy plan and all those hydrogen roadmap on that. So our political leaders are very visionary in a way that they put up policies that is pro-business to encourage foreign investors to come into Sarawak by and develop the local talent as well. Because a lot of times when we talk to these foreigners, what was the not hidden, I would say the underlying meaning is that ultimately you have to teach the local folks, the locals, to be able to take up the job as well. I mean, you can have whoever you want here, but definitely the locals has to be trained as a supply of manpower has to be there. So that being one. And then of course, Sarawak is very strategically located that we are able to ship or export our end products to a lot of part of the Asian countries. We have deep sea ports, and policies to enable that to happen. And also, last but not least, we have a lot of land in Sarawak, ample green energy. So all these will come as a package for foreign investors to look at. So we have everything basically. Yeah.
So in terms of funding wise, maybe you can share how does state government tackle that briefly, or SCDC Energy for that matter, if you don't mind sharing.
Stats is funding largely of all these projects. But of course, since we have foreign investors and foreigners are actually knocking on our doors asking to be part of this project as well. Yeah. So we still need, if we can, Sarawak government is there are policies basically to support the projects, I would say. Yeah.
So in a way, can you say that even for this ongoing projects like Hornbill or Hibiscus, I would say the funding, some of the funding is actually coming from these international companies themselves? I mean, could
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I think we've already exceeded the time by 1 minute. But before I end today's session, I would like to once again thank Dr. Chen and Miss Kathleen for
Thank you.
spending their precious time to participate in today's event and also addressing the key points during today's session. I hope that everyone got a lot of insights from both of these two speakers from two esteemed organizations. So I think without further ado, I pass on the floor to Alia to conclude today's session. On to you, Alia.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our moderator, Encik Adam Muhammad Rahim, and our guest speakers, Dr. Chen Shun and Ms. Kathleen Q, for that insightful expert talk session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the event, and thank you to everyone for your participation. I would like to remind everyone again that this event is 10 CPE points accredited. In order to obtain the 10 CPE points, you are required to answer the post-assessment questions via CHK platform at chkconsultancy.com with a 100% passing mark. The deadline to submit the post-assessment answers are by Friday, 5th April, 3 p.m. I'm Aliana Izani, and thank you once again for taking the time to participate in our event today, as it would not have been a success without each and every one of you. If you have any questions for us, please get in touch with your RHB sales representative. We look forward to seeing you at our next event, and remember to stay safe. Goodbye.